What's up you fellow bun bun? I'm David and today we are going to listen to some malicious compliance. Father forbids me from using electronics, enjoys having a smart ass for a son. First post, so I'm sorry for any mistakes or bad storytelling. This is a short one, but as I talked with my parents I found it very funny. So it all starts in primary school. I had done something to piss my father off, neither he nor I know what it was as it has been over 10 years. He was angry enough to forbid me from using electronics for a month. Me as well as my mother found the punishment to be excessive for what I did, but my father had a row of bad days and exploded easily if you pushed him far enough. Here comes the malicious compliance. He forbid me from using any electronics. So being the smart ass I am, I packed every electronic device in a box and put it under my bed with all of them turned off. I could get up early without any alarm, but it never worked all the time. Some information about the situation: I used to wake everyone up by getting up in the morning and going to take a shower. And I made breakfast for me and my brother. So after a week with no electronics, it finally happened. I woke up an hour late. I woke my father up an hour late and I did not have time to make breakfast for school. My father was not happy to be late but accepted it as a mishap that would happen rarely anyways. But all continued after I arrived at school for the third period. My teacher was very angry because I arrived so late and I was punished by having to do extra homework. Now comes the best part. This day was a project day right before the fall break. We had the same teacher for the day. One part of this day was a movie that was important for the lessons to come after it, and the teacher would discuss it with us over the last week before the break. She got the TV and switched it on. But I left the room. The teacher followed me and tried to tear me a new one for leaving, but I told her that I had been forbidden from using any electronics for 3 more weeks and that I wouldn't do anything until I was not punished anymore. My teacher was strict but knew that I was a stubborn bastard and that she would have to call my father to lift the punishment. So she called my father as I refused that as well, and instead of doing it to me tore him a new one for not being specific. My father then asked to be put on speaker and lifted the punishment entirely. It seems that he had had enough of me being a smart ass at that point. You're grounded from reading. As a child, it was commonplace for my room to be empty and my door to be confiscated when I was in trouble. Abusive home, but won't go into that here. I generally kept a few books in my box spring as I loved reading and I could lose all my stuff for any reason if my bio mom was in a bad mood. This story takes place around the age of 10. One weekend was particularly bad. I was grounded because 2 of the younger siblings were fighting and one went and tattles on the other while she didn't want to be disturbed. She stripped my room, took my door, and locked herself in her bedroom. I figured I wouldn't see her until the next day as per usual when she locks herself away, so I grab a book and settle in my bed to read for a bit. Sometime later, I wake up to her screaming at me about not being allowed to read anything while being grounded, and if she so much as catches me reading the cereal box, I will regret ever learning how to read. She grabs my book and my arm and drags me to the living room where I am instructed not to get up off the couch. The next day is Sunday and I am allowed off the couch to get ready for church. We make it to church and I am escorted to Sunday school. Because I don't mind reading and I'm fairly good at it, I am generally asked to read from the Bible. Teacher, OMG_A_thing, please read this passage. Me, being an absolute shithead, teacher, I can't. I'm grounded from reading. My mom said I'd regret learning how to read if I read anything while being grounded. Teacher, now OMG_A_thing, that's not what she meant. Me, I'm not reading. Fast forwarded to me sitting in the children's pastor's office waiting for my parents for disobedience. My teacher relays the entire incident and my mother face changes to red. I've mortified her in front of the pastor. So she apologizes profusely for the misunderstanding and that she is so embarrassed that I would lie about something like this. We got home and I got the beating of my life. However, I never got grounded from reading again. Embarrassing her in front of the church was my crowning achievement as a child. But look at how much I saved. TLDR at the bottom. In the 1980s I was working for a company that did custom software development for large companies. All our employees were salaried with full benefits, including paid holidays and vacation. I was an account manager, responsible for a bunch of our people working on a project at client site. This was a very important project for our biggest client, generating several $1 million in revenue. It was a good company to work for and we were very profitable. So profitable that we were acquired by a much larger corporation that had absolutely no experience in our business. Within 6 months all our senior managers had been forced out. Our branch manager, my immediate superior, was replaced by a guy fresh out of the corporation's management training program. His entire background was in finance and HR. It was late October when he called me in to discuss my account's performance, specifically how our costs were out of control. Item 1 was vacation. He noticed that several of my people had accrued lots of vacation days and this shows up as a liability on the balance sheet. I explained how this was actually a good thing. When a person takes a vacation day, we have to pay him, but we can't bill the client for his time. Our policy was that people could cash in their accrued vacation at any time. The money we paid them was less than the revenue they generated by working. He explained that was contrary to corporate policy as people would be paid twice for the same day. Effective immediately, all vacation must be used within the calendar year it was earned or it would be lost. Item 2 was paid time off. We had no formal policy covering personal and sick days. I told my troops that I expected them to be at work every day. But if they needed to leave early or take a day off for some personal business or because they were sick, I was okay with that and they'd get paid. But if it became a problem, like the guy who called in sick every Monday because he spent the weekend drinking, or the woman who left early every Wednesday to get a manicure, we would take action. While we did have a couple of people who were out sick for a relatively long time, most took 2 or 3 days each year. Sorry, that was against policy. Effective immediately all employees will receive 5 personal/sick days each year. And again, it was use M or lose M. Item 3 was overtime. He couldn't believe that we were paying salaried people for working OT. I explained that again, this is good thing. When a client asked our people to work OT, we billed for those hours. Since we had already factored all our overhead into the hourly billing rate, the profit margin on OT hours was a lot higher than normal hours. He couldn't grasp that. As far as he was concerned, salaried people do not get paid for OT. I said that if we stop paying OT, people will stop working it and we will lose revenue. He didn't believe that. He assumed that everyone would happily put in the extra time for free. Effective immediately, we would no longer pay for OT. Item 4 was the killer. There was guy on my project, Rich, who was widely regarded as a true expert on the software platform we were using. He literally wrote a book on the subject and taught a class at the community college. We managed to land this project because we agreed that Rich would be assigned to it. Because he was so good, we were able to bill him out at about twice as much as the other people on the project. His salary was also a lot higher than the others. According to the official corporate salary guidelines, Rich's salary was way above the max for his pay grade. I was told to replace him with someone cheaper. At this point I knew that arguing was a waste of time. The next day I told my troops about the new policies regarding vacation, personal time, and OT. They were less than pleased. I reminded them that this was the end of October and they had to use all their accrued vacation and personal days before year end. I got our recruiters looking for someone to replace Rich. In mid-December my new manager asked me again why Rich was still on the payroll. I said we were looking for a replacement, but it was impossible to find someone with his expertise and credentials. He said I had to get Rich off the payroll before year end and we'd worry about finding a replacement in January. I gave Rich the bad news. In February I attended a meeting of all the account managers. In attendance was our area manager, our branch manager's boss. Branch manager proudly reported that he had eliminated OT and the vacation backlog. He had also reduced headcount. Rich was not the only high-value employee to be let go. Then his boss asked why revenue was down by almost 20%. Branch manager had no explanation and blamed the sales staff. I raised my hand and explained that everyone took their accrued vacation, which for my account alone was more than 200 billable days. Since the new policy went into effect, almost everyone took their 5 days. Finally, the elimination of OT resulted in a loss of almost 20 billable days. Since our average daily billing rate was $500, my account generated $150,000 less revenue than the previous quarter. All the other account managers reported similar numbers. Then I said that my entire project was about to be cancelled. We had missed a key deadline because so many people had taken time off. But the biggest problem was Rich's termination. The contract specifically said that Rich would be assigned as the technical lead. Since he was no longer our employee, we were in breach of the contract and the client was going to pull the plug. Within a week the new branch manager was transferred to another division in another state where he could happily count paper clips and rolls of toilet paper. And Rich was brought back as an independent contractor. He knew the position we were in and demanded a considerable increase, driving our profit margin on him to almost zero. But the damage was done. The new policies on vacation and OT remained in effect and we all started leaving to work for our competition. Within 2 years corporate shut it down completely. TLDR new managers' cost-cutting policies drive us out of business.